Over in the West Philippine Sea, the Philippine Coast Guard confirms that China's so-called monster ship has already left Zambales. However, it appears to have been replaced by another ship with bow number 3304. Like the CCG 5901, this newly deployed ship keeps a distance of only 60 to 70 nautical miles from the coastline of Zambales. This new vessel is also still larger than the BRP Gabriela Silang, which is patrolling in the same area. The monster ship was in the Philippine Exclusive Economic Zone for a total of 15 days before it departed on Sunday, January 19. This happened while the Philippines and the United States conducted another maritime cooperative activity in the South China Sea or the West Philippine Sea last week. The U.S. deployed a carrier strike group for this round of exercise centered around the USS Carl Vinson, the guided missile cruiser USS Princeton, and other aircraft. The Philippines dispatched the guided missile frigate BRP Antonio Luna, the offshore patrol vessel Andres Bonifacio, fighter aircraft, and other assets. During the activity, the AFP said they monitored 5 Chinese vessels, although these did not interfere with the MCA.
All right, let's try to get more updates on this from Commodore Jay Tarriela, Philippine Coast Guard spokesperson for the West Philippine Sea. Oh, he joins us on the line. Good evening, Commodore Tarriela. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you. A pleasant evening to everyone and also to your viewers.
Good to speak to you again. First things first, CCG 3304. Last you tracked, it was 65 nautical miles off of the coast of Zambales. Now this ship is smaller than the so-called monster ship, but still bigger than the biggest of our own vessels, the Gabriela Silang. What do you think it's trying to do here?
Just the same, no? China Coast Guard 3304 is just continuing the main objective of the Chinese government, that is to normalize their deployment of China Coast Guard vessels within our own exclusive economic zone.
Did we notice a pattern in terms of its movement? Kasi sabi po ninyo that you conducted strategic maneuvering to keep them from Zambales from going near. Where does the ship seem to be headed? Is it just making circles around a certain area, or does it try to get nearer to our coastline?
Well, it tries to at least maintain the distance of 60 to 70 nautical miles, no? The strategic maneuvering that Teresa Magbanwa did in the previous days is to at least push it far away from the 70 nautical miles distance that it is maintaining. However, we just realized that the Chinese Coast Guard, both ARG 901 and those previous vessels that replaced her, really wants to stay in this track of 60 to 70 nautical miles.
Okay, so the last time we spoke to you, Commodore Tarriela, that was just around at the New Year, and you said, I remember that they did stay around, this was the monster ship itself, staying also about 60 to 70 nautical miles from the coast of Zambales, which you said is kind of far. So in terms of, I guess it's been 2 weeks now that you guys have been tailing them. They're just really going around? Are they going near any of the features within our EEZ, anything specific, or just hanging around?
No, they're just doing erratic movement, no? But again, it's still parallel to the coastline, but with a distance of 60 to 70 nautical miles. As I said, the real intention of the Chinese Coast Guard is only to normalize this deployment, that once we fail to challenge them or to document their illegal presence, it might be a new status quo that they are going to claim, but they have been doing patrol for a long time already. This is the reason why it is important for the Philippine government, for the Coast Guard to challenge them through radio and to publicize this every day so that the world would know that we are not accepting the illegal deployment of the Chinese Coast Guard.
That's right. You have been issuing, when the monster ship was there, and even with this new vessel, you had been issuing hourly radio challenges to them, right? As far as I understand it. What happens after you issue a challenge to them? How do they respond?
Well, the response is also to counter radio challenge. What they're saying is that one, the arbitral award is not binding. it is void, and they do not recognize such decision. And as far as the China Coast Guard is concerned, according to them, they have total jurisdiction over these waters, and what they're doing is a legitimate maritime law enforcement patrol.
Actually, Commodore Tarriela, I have to thank him personally because he helped us when I was doing a fellowship back in December, and then he helped my group get on board one of the ships. I can't remember. Was it 4407? I think it was BRP 4407, which is one of the ships that escort the resupply missions out to the West Philippine Sea. And we got a chance to listen to one of the officers give a radio challenge. And something they told us was that sometimes when it's a female voice that's issuing the radio challenge, they are softer in their response. Was that also something that you found, Commodore?
Well, right now there are a lot of changes of observation about the behavior of the Chinese Coast Guard. First of all, this is the first time that they have, stayed that long at a very close distance of 60 to 70 nautical miles without actually, knowing the real intention why they are there. Secondly, as to the hourly radio challenge, I don't think that the female boys have a significant impact because either way, whether it's a male or female, they're still doing the same scripted response in our challenge. So there is no significant impact.
You did tell the Inquirer, though, Commodore Tarriela, and I read the article just a while ago, that these radio challenges that you do, hourly at that, do, and I quote, agitate China's way of thinking. Can you tell us more about what you think these hourly challenges do in terms of morale or in terms of psychology?
Well, I believe the Chinese Coast Guard personnel are also rational beings. And in our radio challenges, what we're actually citing are actually factual and legitimate references, like the United Nations Convention of the Law of the Sea. Anybody who has a rational way of thinking, if you're going to read the text of UNCLOS, would definitely convince you that this is an exclusive economic zone of the Philippines and China does not have any business to be here. We also mentioned about the 2016 arbitral award. These references that we are citing are actually are eye opener for the Chinese Coast Guard personnel. So I think every time we issue this radio challenge, we also educate the Chinese Coast Guard personnel on board that vessel. And no matter how they deny it, I think that rationality and legitimacy of our challenges at least agitates their superiors because these are hard facts that cannot be contested.
Okay, Commodore Tarriela, last December, China submitted geographic coordinates and nautical charts for sea territory surrounding the Scarborough Shoal. Of course, they are claiming this as territory to the UN. Do you link this behavior of sending huge ships to that claim by China? And what do you think could be the move here? Because there is, as we know, today, President Trump will get inaugurated. Meron ba tayong inaasahan on that end as, I guess, as a way to hold the line in this part of the West Philippine Sea?
Gretchen, no? The territorial sea that China has applied in the United Nations only talks about the 12 nautical miles within the territorial sea of Bajo de Masinloc. And if you're going to measure the distance of Bajo de Masinloc to the area wherein they are illegally deploying their vessels, it's already beyond 12 nautical miles. So I don't think that there is a connection with their claim of filing the territorial sea in Bajo de Masinloc and with what they're doing right now at the 60 to 70 nautical miles distance from our coastline. Regarding your second question about how do we see the U.S. presidency in our fight and our position in the West Philippine Sea, we have to go back with the Trump 1.0, his first term. We had an experience under the Secretary of State, then Secretary of State Pompeo. It was in 2019 that he clarified that the mutual defense treaty can be applied in South China Sea. Secondly, if we're going to look at the cabinet, soon to be cabinet officials of President Donald Trump, I don't think that majority of them are pro-China or not China hawks, right? So, and third, of course, Republican and Democrat, we have bipartisan support in our position, the West Philippine Sea. So I'm very optimistic, and I think the national government and even the DFA has already mentioned this, that we still believe that the ironclad commitment of the United States with our government remains to be very strong.
Right.
Commodore, going outside, 60, 70 nautical miles from the coastline of Zambales, where else are we seeing a presence of Chinese Coast Guard ships and militia ships, the usual gray zone ships that we see? Apart from Scarborough, I mean, Ayungin supposedly is all good. Can you confirm that for us?
Well, first of all, again, there are China Coast Guard vessels in different parts of the West Philippine Sea. But I don't have the exact location of all this maritime forces deployment. But I can confirm that there are maritime forces not just in the one that we're guarding off the coast of Zambales. But again, what is disturbing in what we're monitoring here in Zambales is that this is the closest illegal presence of China Coast Guard in our coastline.
And then lastly, just very quickly, Commodore, since you mentioned DFA, they also recently announced that the resupply missions, the RORA missions at Union Shoal, that we had agreed to an indefinite implementation of the arrangements with China. I wonder what that means in practice. Does that mean we will have to continue, or rather we will have to give Beijing a heads up every time we conduct resupply missions? Or what's the arrangement there?
Well, first of all, the provisional understanding that the DFA and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs have concluded is only applicable in Second Thomas Shoal. Every time the Armed Forces of the Philippines do the resupply. Secondly, I'm not really privy about the details because when we talk about the RORE in Second Thomas Shoal, this is purely a military operation, and the Philippine Coast Guard is only asked to support and assist the resupply mission.